Hello and welcome to another one of my videos. And in today's video, I'm going to be going through a new series. This is the series that has probably been 5 years in the making. When I made that video all those months ago, when I said I was slowly going to wind the business down, I said that I was going to put out all the knowledge and information that I had, whether that be anecdotal tips and tricks, strategies, etc. And this is where they're going to be put. So I'm planning on it being a once a week style format. I've got ideas for a year's worth of content. That may it may be slightly more, it may be slightly less. I feel it's kind of important. I don't expect anything back in terms of monetary gain apart from the ad revenue. If anyone wants to buy me a beer, you're more than welcome to do it. However, I think it's just within my nature to kind of impart on the experiences and wisdom that I've gathered over the last 9 years. But even going back further, like I've got an education in business, and not everyone is inclined that way. Although I think it's very important that they have at least a basic grounding in finances and business entrepreneurship, just because of the way the world is going. Now, I appreciate that these videos, they're probably not going to be everyone's cup of tea. Some people come to my channel just because they want to see gold coins. Some people see it aspirational. Some people are just a bit tired of life and that's their getaway. That's completely fine on all counts. I think this is something that is important to me. And if it gets the least amount of views, I've said my piece, I've put what I know out there, and I'm completely fine to walk away with my head held high, regardless of what I choose to do next. If I do walk away, I probably am. I'm 99% sure that I will wind the business down. It's just a matter of when. So yeah, let's get into it. The first episode, I just want to talk about business and why business is important to me and why it's historically and fundamentally important for you as well. It's something that's got lost over the years for many complicated reasons. So let's start back when I was a little boy, a little man, a young man. I think that's the better way to say it. When I was growing up, I I spent most of my life in the area I currently reside in. I travelled a lot. I've lived in many countries. I've done a lot for my life as someone who started at the bottom. For those of you who are not in the UK, so the UK has a very class-based system. When I was younger, that those class bases were probably more rigid than they are now. That has changed since I'd say Blair came into power. So my childhood, I think that has improved. I think it's got worse in other ways, but you need to understand the context of why business was interesting for me as a child. On the estate I grew up on, and it wasn't the worst estate, it wasn't the best estate. There was crime happening. There was some fairly serious crime happening, but there was still a community in a sense. It did change as I got slightly older, and that's when my mother decided to move me out the area along with my brother. We stayed in the same town, but we moved far away from that estate. So to talk about the types of crimes, we're talking there was a drug dealer, we're talking violence, and it did progress. It was mainly petty, but it did progress the longer I stayed. But I understood as a young man, as a child, that there wasn't a lot of money. There wasn't a lot of money for anyone. It didn't mean that there wasn't this community and people weren't happy, but it was a grind and it was a struggle for a lot of people that lived on that estate, and that's true. So as a child, I made the connection of, oh, hang on, you know, people are cost cutting. I stopped asking for things because I knew the money wasn't there. I knew, even as a child, I knew the money wasn't there, and it's not a woe is me, but it's a fair reflection of where my family was in that period in my life. And I saw other kids, and they didn't really have things either. Not really. Like to get a new bike, it'd be something that it would be birthday, Christmas rolled into one, and even then, it might be a second-hand bike. I remember I got my first bike. It was on sale. I still have that bike in my shed. I, it's got metal stump pegs. I don't even think they make them anymore. It's got metal pedals. They used to hurt. They used to really hurt. But the point is, I understood as a child that I needed to save up to buy something I wanted. Like, I remember when I got a bit older, I saved and saved and saved. I got a part-time job, and I ended up going to a second-hand shop, and I bought. It was called Charlie Waldron's. It's no longer there. It's a block of flats. And I bought an N64, and I bought GoldenEye, and I bought South Park, and it was all secondhand, and it was expensive back then. Like, I remember it. I remember thinking I've been saving for a very long time for this. So as a child, I realised that one, there wasn't a lot of money, and that you had to cost cut and you had to penny pinch, and two, if you wanted something, you had to work for it and you had to save for it. So there's parallels here in today's world. If you want something, you have to work for it or you have to save for it, or at least that's my world. Now, in the days of social media, where everyone's trying to live a life that they don't have just to impress people they don't like or don't know, they're like, I got a new phone, I've got no money though, everything's on credit or leased, and it's problematic. And this is one of the reasons why I want to put these videos out as well, because I know, living the life that I lived, you can only cost cut so much. And you can say to people, oh, well, get rid of your phone contract. You need the phone. You didn't need the phone when I was growing up. You didn't need it. I still remember, like, my mother shouting me, get off the connection, and she'd throw something at me. I still remember that. You had to, I think it was dial in. You had to take it out to use the phone. And my mum would want to talk to one of her sisters. And the world's different. You cannot scrimp on stuff like phones or transport if you got it. But what's happening is that your costs are going up. Since 2008, your costs are going up and up and up. And you can't penny pinch everything. You can't, because there's only so much you can save. There's only so much you can shrinkflate, or you can dilute before there's just no money left. Like, I used to have it, I'd go to the shop and I'd have X amount of money and I'd spend it. I'm not in that position anymore. I don't worry about my finances, but I work very hard and I understand the rules of the game. And part of the reason for this series, because I want everyone else to understand the rules of the game, because it will make your life a lot easier as well. So I make, these days, 5 figures from passive income. It's going to get higher. It's going to jump up in April. It's tax free because it's in my ISA. And it took years and years and years. And I was broke at 26. And I come out of uni, I was broken and I was broke. I was mentally in a bad place and I was financially in a worse place. And I went out and I worked hard. I was still working night shifts. I had a master's degree and I was stacking shelves. And that's how I come into being a gold dealer, a coin dealer. So I saw business as aspirational, because you can't cut costs. Once you've got to the baseline, you can't cut costs. So you've got to make more money. How do you make more money? You've got to go and earn it. You've got to give yourself a skill set that is useful, that can be monetized. So I'm putting videos out on YouTube. I don't make a lot of money on YouTube. My best month, I went years making $1 a day on average. My best month recently, I made £200 just from YouTube. I don't have to shy away from that. I'm not embarrassed to make money through doing what I do. But it gives you an idea. Maybe your skill set will be social media. Maybe you'll do a bit of trading. Maybe you're handy with woodwork. You can help out people in your community. Which leads me on to my next part that I wanted to talk about. So, as someone who studied business and someone who studied business extensively, I did GCSEs, scrap that. I did A-levels in business. I'm not sure I did GCSEs in business. I might have done it in business, but not economics. But I studied business, economics and law. I was a very strange child, it would seem. But I knew I wanted to go into business. But I also understand that the business we see in today's world is not the business that we should have. We've had a series over the last 10, 15 years. Since I entered the workforce, about 15 years, your rights have been stripped. They really have. When I started, you could get time and a half for working on a Sunday. You would get a premium for working nights. Now you don't get any premiums. And yet your costs are still getting higher and higher. So it goes back to what I was saying earlier in the video, where you need to make more money. You need to put yourself in a position where you can top up your income. And I'm not saying that's right. I'm saying that is what it is. So going back to business world changing, businesses want more and more out of you, and they want to pay less and less for it. And I can completely understand why the generation below me have just opted out, and they're opting for experiences rather than possessions. And that's something where I completely agree with them. If your life is literally you live in a room share or you live with your parents, you're not going to get on the property ladder, especially down south. I can't talk for the rest of the country. I can't talk for people outside the UK. I know that there's issues in other parts of the world. If there's nothing to aspire for, I would check out. I would. When I was in Australia, I couldn't find a job. Not really. I had to pick fruit. Could you imagine if that was my life for the rest of my life? I'd be spent. My back would be broke. It's a hard physical job that I really enjoyed. I couldn't do it for my whole life. Couldn't do it for 20 years. And there's a lot of people who are stuck in situations. I've got clients who they work in factories. That's probably them done. There's no other work. And that's one of the reasons why I'm putting this content out. I wish to put this content out because you have to have aspirations, because aspirations moves the country forward. It moves yourself forward. It gives you a sense of purpose. And all the time you're in a dead-end situation, you're stuck on the road to nowhere, it's problematic. It's problematic for everyone involved. So businesses have changed. Like I said, if you study up on business was always meant to be for the local community. It always started out as a local thing, and then it got bigger and it ballooned and it got bastardized and rights were stripped and taken away. And those days are gone where the companies look after yourself. There's very few companies that will look after you. And that's a shame. And this is one of the reasons I didn't want to hire. Because I knew deep down that maybe I'd walk away. I was unsure. I was at a crossroad. I had too many options in my life over what I could do. And I thought, I don't want to hire someone and say, sorry, mate, you don't have a job. I'm not wired that way, I'm all in or I'm nothing. That's how I'm wired. If I wanted to build empire, I would hire the best people I could find and I'd pay them bloody good wages to keep them. As long as it paid for itself. But I'm not the type of person aiming to make 50 grand a month, 100 grand a month. It doesn't matter. And also, you get to a point of business where what you make a month is irrelevant because your wealth is determined by the assets you own rather than the income you generate. So I'm at the point where I've made more money in postage stamps just going up in price than I do in income. That's how the system's designed. But I'm going to put that at the end of the video because that's more important. So yeah, the businesses started off small and they looked after their communities. Not all of them, but the bulk of them. And the reason being there was stigma associated with treating employers, your staff badly. But somehow we've got to the point where the people who own the companies where you live, they don't even live here. They don't give a shit. They don't care. Like if you're for example, we got a toll bridge. It's owned by the French. Why would the French care? The French are sending over tons and tons of people on dinghies because they don't want to deal with them. They see it as the UK's problem. It's not a slate towards the French. I can completely get it. It's not the French's problem either. We just tend to be the end destination. It's caused a lot of friction. So that toll bridge is owned by the French. They don't care. Most of our businesses have been sold off. Why would they care about the British people? The British people don't even care about the British people. I touched upon it a while back that the British Empire supported um, the top of, like, the top class. It didn't support everyone else. Everyone else suffered the brunt of it, like the people that the British enforced it upon. But that's a complex topic. It's never, you don't shit in your own backyard. You just don't. But we got to the point where a lot of countries are owned by other countries, and it's kind of hidden in shell companies, etc. But it means that society's gone down, and that's why you can't get a good wage. That's why you're suffering from inflation. That's why you can't seem to get ahead. So what's the way forward? You have to teach yourself to get ahead. Or you opt out, one of the two. You can do either. The choice is on you, but I know what I want to do. If I want something, I go and earn it. And that's the mindset that us as people have to kind of foster and create, because it's not going to come from the top down. It never has done. We've tried that ever since we've had free markets. We've tried it. Trickle down economics, anyone? Doesn't work. It's never worked, and it never will work. So you need to say, enough's enough. I'm going to get better at what I do, and I'm going to make more money to improve my life and the life of the people around me and the people in the community around me, whether that be local or online. It's different communities pop up. So yeah, that's why I got into business. That's why I think business is important. That's why I think business has gone wrong. You'll understand that part of improving your life is that when you realize assets do most of the heavy lifting, if you do start side income and you make more money than you need to invest it due to the duality of inflation. That's also important. I think starting a business and making a bit more money is only a small part of the machine. And I hope the rest of the episodes I put out are going to cover the whole machine. And it's for you as an individual, if you're watching my content, to kind of pick it up and put it together in a way that suits you as an individual. And if this type of content is not for you, then I've got plenty of other content that just deals with shiny things. Take care, guys. Bye.